Uh, as per the last lecture, you must have understood the definition of medical devices and what is the importance of competent body, the difference between competent body, notified body, and what all are different categories of medical devices across the world. So we have covered US, Europe, TGA, Australia, Japan, Canada, UAE, the GCC area, and we have covered the regulatory process in short. We have covered the CE marking as well. So today we are going to discuss about the key differences between the MDD and MDR. So what is MDD? First, try to understand what is MDD and what is MDR. So EU in Europe, it has established the medical device regulation and in vitro diagnostic regulation. Medical device regulation means MDR and in vitro diagnostic regulations means IVDR. So these MDD and IVDR and MDR is a replacement to previously MDD and IVDD. So D means it is nothing but it is a directives. So MDR is a new regulation and earlier it was called as a directive. So the difference is MDD to MDR. So the differences is applicable in both the cases like medical devices and in vitro diagnostics. That is why it is called MDR and IVDR. So the MDR is significantly more comprehensive and detailed compared to the MDD. How it is differ from MDD to MDR? So the previously, which is 25 years old regulation, what we are using in the medical device industry, which is called MDD, which was comprising 23 articles and 12 annexes, and it was over about 60 pages. Whereas the new MDR, which is published recently, which has 123 article and 17 annexes, and that comprises of 175 pages. So you could see there are huge changes between 60 pages to 175 pages, and 12 annexes to 17 annexes, and 23 articles to 123 articles. So Europe's new medical devices regulations will bring significant regulatory changes that may impact multiple business units within your organization. So what is meant by surgically invasive device? Surgically invasive device means an invasive device which penetrates inside the body through the surface of the body, including through mucous membranes of the orifice, with the aid or in the context of a surgical operation as per Annex 8. I will repeat the definition. Surgically invasive device means an invasive device which penetrates inside the body through the surface of the body, including through mucous membranes of the body orifice, with the aid or in the context of surgical operation. Whereas injured skin or mucous membrane means an area of the skin or a mucous membrane presenting a pathological change or change following disease or a wound. So I will give one example just to understand in a better way. Suppose if we apply band-aid when we get injured, when we have a wound, we apply through band-aid. So band-aid is applied through our skin, right? So injured skin or mucous membrane means an area of the skin or a mucous membrane presenting a pathological change. So wound is getting healed because of the medication applied through that bandage, and which changes, right? So wound is recovered and our skin appearance may change. That means the medication which is given by the means of medical device, which is band-aid, and through which the patient wound is recovered. So this is the one best example I can give over here, and I hope it is understood by you all guys. If you not understood, we will take the question and answer session at the end of the lecture. Then let us understand what is active device. Active device is covered under Article 2. It means that any device the operation of which depends on source of energy other than that generated by the human body for that purpose, or by gravity, and which acts by changing the density of or converting that energy. Again, devices intended to transmit energy, substances, or other elements between an active device and the patient without any significant change shall not be deemed to be active devices. Software shall also be deemed to be an active device. So, in certain cases, some software are used. Like if you go to physiotherapist, there are many medical devices used for the physiotherapeutic activity. Then one more example I will say, you must have seen the patches which emits the infrared radiation. I work for one of the client in Dubai, and we have uh, registered patches which used to emit the infrared energy and which used to generate and heat when we apply through our painful area. Say for example, if I have knee joint pain or if I have shoulder pain, so different size of patches were available, and you have to apply those patches through which the infrared energy generated, the heat is generated through the body, and we used to feel better. So these are the two examples are sufficient to understand what is meant by this device which transmit the energy, okay, and which does not transmit the energy is not categorized under this active devices. Then reusable surgical instruments means what? Instrument intended for surgical use in cutting, drilling, sewing, scratching, scraping, clamping, retracting, clipping, or similar procedure without a connection to an active device, and which is intended by the manufacturer to be reused after appropriate procedures such as cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization have been carried out. So the best example you can see whenever you go to dentist, they are using so many medical devices and the equipment which has to be cleaned, sterilized after using for one patient to another patient. So this comes under reusable instrument. I mean, even the surgical, where the major surgery, bypass surgery, kidney operation, there are so many devices we are using for the cutting, drilling, sewing, scratching, stamping, and everything. So all those surgical devices has to be cleaned, sterilized with the appropriate procedure, and so that we can reuse. In our pharmaceutical industry also, most of the equipment we go for autoclaving, sterilization system, so that the same equipment can be used for manufacturing of the next batches. So this comes under reusable instrument. Then the continuous use means what? The entire duration of use of the same device without regard to temporary interruption of use during a procedure or temporary removal of for purposes such as cleaning or disinfection of the device. Whether the interruption of use or the removal of temporary shall be established in relation to the duration of the use prior to and after the period when the use is interrupted or the device is removed. And B is what? The accumulated use of a device that is intended by the manufacturer to be replaced immediately with another of the same type. Here I could give the example of pacemaker, which is placed for the heart functioning, and which has, I think, stability for 5 years, and after 5 years we have to replace that pacemaker. So the patient should have, the doctor and the manufacturer and the patient should have all the history, all the data when it was placed in your body, and the date of manufacture of that pacemaker, then the expiry. So before expiry, the patient has to be admitted and replaced with the that pacemaker, or at least it should be cleaned, sterilized, and we can reuse it if it has to be continuously used. So this is pretty clear. The definition and the meaning of each definition is given under each section. Then direct diagnosis. A device is considered to allow direct diagnosis when it provides the diagnosis of the disease or condition in question by itself, or when it provides decisive information for the diagnosis. Direct diagnosis is very, very important because which should give the perfect result. Now, in COVID cases, like you must have heard about rapid kit. Rapid kit is used to diagnose the COVID patient whether he is positive or negative. Then there are so many diagnostic kits are available. Example, Prega kit, which is used for the pregnancy test. So you have to just put 2-3 drops of urine and it will give the result. So these are the equipment or the diagnostic kit which are available in the market. Then the implantable device. Implantable device covered under Article 2.5. That means any device, including those that are partially or wholly absorbed, which is intended or to be totally introduced into the human body, or to replace an epithelial surface or the surface of the eye by clinical intervention, and which is intended to remain in place after the procedure. Any device intended to be partially introduced into the human body by clinical intervention and intended to remain in place after the procedure for at least 30 days shall also be deemed to be an implantable device. So what does it mean? Implantable device means which is implanted in our body. Like you must have seen the knee implants, the hip implants, and there are so many implants inserted in our body to recover for some orthopedic or the injury when the accident happens. So there are lots of varieties of implants are placed in our body. So this will come under implantable device. And there are devices which are used only for the at least for the 30 days will also come under the implantable device. That is the meaning of this definition. Then we have to discuss about the 13 major changes from MDD to MDR. Let us talk about the first. The MDR is 4 times longer and contain 5 more annexes than the MDR. So in the first slide itself, I have told you what is the difference. The MDD, the old one is of 60 pages, whereas this is 175 pages. Then there are annexure. So you have to understand that there are lots of changes as compared to MDD when we compare with the new MDR. So the word safety appears 290 times in the MDR, and MDD by comparison uses it only 40 times. So what is the meaning of this word safety appears? That means they have focused more onto safety parameters. So the whole industry, whether it is a pharma industry, whether it is a medical device industry or food industry, we have to trust on the safety parameters, which is very, very important, because all these, wherever we are working in pharma, food, OTC or medical devices, safety is the major concern because all human beings are using these products. So that is a major difference what we observed when we talk about the difference between MDD to MDR, and it is appeared 290 times the C. Then significant changes in wording used in the new law will require companies to rationalize their portfolios and perform a global impact assessment in order to implement the necessary changes to remain compliant. Now you must be having, suppose XYZ company is having MDD already in place and they are selling 100 products into the market. Now there is a big question. So 100 products, how can I change from MDD to MDR? So they have to implement the whole system. They have to apply as per new rules and regulations. They have to meet all the safety parameters. If they must not have conducted clinical studies, all the clinical evidence is insufficient. So they have to go for the clinical evidence. Just see the 100 varieties of products. If they have to go through this, the implementation will take long time. But they have to go for this, and that's the reason each country has given sufficient time for this implementation. And now, if you see everywhere, this MDD to, because of MDD to MDR, implementation is going on in all medical devices manufacturer units. And India is nowhere, like India is also important, so they have also applied as per our EU MDR, and in India also they have given sufficient time for the implementation from MDD to MDR. Then fourth change is Annex 1, sorry, the impact assessment. The third was the impact assessment as per this new rule. And the fourth one is what? Annex 1, which talks about general safety and performance requirements, which identifies new conditions that will need to be addressed for the most legacy devices that CE marked under the MDD. Existing product must be recertified in accordance with the new regulations. So as I said earlier, all the equipment or all the medical devices which are already into market, they have to recertified for the CE mark. So CE mark is used major in the EU market, and we have discussed during the last lecture how the CE mark is done. Then the fifth change is the MDR will require most companies to update clinical data, technical documentation, and labeling. Then there is a unique device identification which identifies your medical device will be implemented to help track device throughout the economic operator supply chain and will be required on the label, on all labels. What does it mean throughout the economic operator supply chain? That means suppose if your medical device is implants, orthopedic implants, but to make that orthopedic implant, you must be having a supply chain. That means you must be taking their parts or the materials from different vendors. Okay, so different vendors must be giving. Suppose your implants may comprises of 500 elements, or at least you consider 100 elements. Out of 100 elements, suppose 50 elements or the 50 items you are taking from different vendors. So all these materials should be identified. So each item or the each what I said element has to have the unique identification number. So, and which will be your part of the system. And this is very critical, the numbering system. And you have to follow if you are a medical device manufacturer, you have to focus on UDI. So that is why the all manufacturer has given sufficient time for making all these changes, and it should affect on your, sorry, it should be seen on your label as well. So while the scope of the MDD did not encompass medical purpose device and IMED, these are both included under MDR. The definition of medical device is broadened to include non-medical and cosmetic device not previously regulated. So what does it mean in MDD, which is the old standard, in that non-medical and the cosmetic devices were not regulated, and those are included in this MDR. Examples like products for cleaning, disinfection, or sterilization of devices are as well as contact lenses, liposuction equipment, or epilation lasers. So all these products which is used as a disinfectant, sterilization, cleaning agent, those are also included in medical devices. That is why you must have seen that the major rules talks about each and every medical device will be considered or regulated as per the drug, because in pharma industry drug is highly regulated, and that's the reason if you recollect the definition that there are safety word is coming to 90 times than the MDD, and this is very important factor when we are using it on human being. And there was a case study when Johnson and Johnson implants has affected, the patient life. That was a biggest case study happened, 2 3 years back, and it was published in Times of India and all over the world. And because of that, these changes have happened, drastically from MDD to MDR. The patient, when the implant was inserted in his body, after a few years, he started eluting the particles in his blood. So the particles, suppose if it corrode, still implants have been inserted, and after a few years, if it is not biocompatible and it is affecting to your body, and it is uh, the corrosion has happened, and leaching is happening in your body, so what will happen? It is highly dangerous for our health, injurious for our health, and that's the reason safety is a major concern. And this was the case studies based on which lots of changes have happened from old MDD to new MDR rules. So come to next point, that is manufacturers will need to generate and provide more in-depth clinical data to prove safety and performance claims, including tighter equivalency standard. So again, due to safety, we have to majorly concern about the safety and performance claims. Whatever claims you are going to give on your label has to be tighter. Then manufacturers will need to report all incidents, injuries, and deaths into an EU portal that will centralize relevant data so that patients have access to more safety related information. Reporting for incidents that did not result in death or serious deterioration in health is moved to 15 days from 30 days. So you must have heard in pharma industry it is called pharmacovigilance. Here it is called materiovigilance. So whatever injury happens or death happens, everything is recorded and updated on EU portal, and all the updated guidelines related to safety information you will find on EU portal. And if there is a serious death or any serious deterioration happens in health, then it is moved from 15 days to 30 days. And the patient should have access to that portal so that patient himself will take care of all such things. If patient himself is not aware of that there is a rule that we can lodge the complaint, or we can inform to health authority that such things are happening in my body after insertion, then the patient and the when the implant are inserted into his body, the doctors, the healthcare professionals should train or suggest him that whatever happens in your body, whatever changes, you have to intimate us immediately. And that's how the safety is taken care of. So then the companies undergoing transition will need to revisit core processes, including the quality assurance, risk management, and post-marketing expectations. So these will require careful review, planning, and updating to re-implement in compliance with the new requirement. So simple, you have to establish the very good system in your company for updating database. Then your quality assurance department should be very good to assess the risk. So the risk should be assessed, the risk